guys, dearyoongi here, and welcome back to my channel. To celebrate my 1-year channel anniversary, I recently released a Google form on my community tab where I asked you guys to submit me your K-pop confessions, and that video is my most recent upload if you'd like to go check it out. In the beginning of that video, I did mention that although I got a lot of confessions, I also got a lot of K-pop opinions from you guys. So to keep things a bit clearer, I wanted to do them as separate videos. So today, it's time for reacting to my subscribers' K-pop opinions. Now, I'm definitely going to include my usual disclaimers here because I don't want anybody to get attacked in the comments. So please note that these are just the opinions of both my subscribers and myself. I trust that everybody is just trying to be honest and do not intend to send any hate towards any artist or individual. Also, I forgot to say this last time, so I just put it on screen. I will try to keep the videos that I show on screen sort of related to the topic, but if they don't sometimes, please note I'm not trying to call anybody out. It's just to give you guys something to look at while you're listening to my boring old voice. Okay, so without further ado, let's get going. We're going to start off with a strong one, guys. I feel like we have to. This one says, I think that people need to stop being so obsessive over K-pop, looking for updates all the time, streaming every song from their fave idols, even if they don't like it. K-pop is a music genre and people should enjoy it. If you don't enjoy what you're listening to, then what's the point? Nowadays, K-pop fans only care about the numbers going up on the music video. So I think I've kind of addressed something similar to this in the past, where I have said streaming every song by your faves, even if you don't like it, is not good for them as an artist or yourself as a listener. So I completely agree with what this opinion says. Basically, the idea is that as artists, they are constantly looking to us as the consumer for critiques and tips on basically how they can improve the experience for both themselves and us as the listener. So if we actively listen to every single song that they release, even when we don't really like it, they'll never really know where they have to improve and what you want to hear. It's a win-win for everyone, really, because if we're honest with an artist and say, I didn't really like that release much, guys, then they will know what to do better in future to make music that their fans want to hear, and then you'll have an artist who makes music you want to hear, if that makes sense. I do also get what this person is saying about how people can get to a point where they're obsessing over updates and streaming and things like that. And like they said, K-pop is just a music genre and we should be enjoying it. And if it's getting to a point where it's making you miserable because you're constantly checking things and it's taking over your life, then something needs to change. A lot of people enjoy having regular updates all the time, but I think this person is trying to drive home the point when it gets to a point where you're obsessing and it's taking over your life. That's when it can become quite a negative influence. We're now going to move on to an opinion we have regarding debut tracks. This one says, the best debut song of all time is either The Seventh Sense by NCT U or Movie Star by CIX. And no one can change my mind. Honestly, I don't think off the top of my head I have an opinion on what I personally think of the best debut song is of all time. I can name a lot that I think are really good. For example, I really love Pirate King by ATEEZ. I think as a debut it just blows my mind when I listen to it because how have a group released a song that strong so early on in their careers? And now that I'm trying to think, I can't think of any other off the top of my head. Oh, technically, Taemin's Danger was his solo debut, so I want to put that one there as well as one of my favourite K-pop songs of all time, never mind just debuts. But if it helps, I do agree that both of these songs are very strong debuts. I just don't know what I would classify the best overall debut of all time. I loved when The Seventh Sense came out because it was so conceptual, it was so different. It was exciting to see something different coming into the industry, and of course NCT have only carried on proving that. Speaking of NCT, while we're here, I actually have a couple of opinions about NCT, so why not throw those in while we're here? This opinion in particular is about one of their recent releases, Sticker. Like a sticker. This song is one that has had a lot of mixed reviews, so let's see what this person has to say. I get that it's kinda out there musically, but Sticker by NCT 127 is a great song and is so on brand for them. Not a single other K-pop group could pull off that song apart from 127. This is really interesting. Now that I think about it, I also couldn't imagine anybody else doing this song. Granted, I wasn't especially a big fan of it, but I definitely agree with what this person says. It's a very them song. I do think it suits them, and I don't know anyone else that would probably pull it off in the same way. So although I don't really like the song personally, I can definitely appreciate that it's on brand for them. And I always love when an artist is actualized, so they know what suits them best and they know what music people expect from them and how to constantly put a twist on that and keep us all guessing. Let's be honest, SM as a company aren't strangers to releasing music that's a bit out of the ordinary. I think this one might have just taken a lot of people off guard, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a problem. And for the next NCT opinion we had to look at, this one says, in my opinion, NCT is honestly super misunderstood. I can understand that it may be hard for people to catch up on the content, but it's so sad that people don't appreciate the lore enough. I honestly think it's super fun to see the NCT Kwangja theories with aespa, Taemin, EXO, well, the SMCU in general. You know what? They've been around for years now, and it does still baffle me that people who have been into K-pop for a while, and especially the hosts of these shows, I don't understand why they can't understand the concept of NCT. Rather than a group having, say, 7 members or 10 members or whatever, they have a system where they have an infinite possibility number of members, where they can be interchanged, and they have different units where the members can interchange as well. I don't think it's that hard to grasp. I do remember seeing their original Weekly Idol back years ago, where Donnie and Coney, I guess it was kind of a joke. They were pretending they just could not grasp the concept of the members being in multiple units at the same time, and I know it was probably a gag and just a bit of a bit, but I didn't find it funny. It's ignorant for somebody in a position, especially as a presenter, to not take a second to think, right, how does this work? And I wouldn't mind if it was extremely complicated. It's not really. Of course, we're not expecting everyone to know what unit everybody is in. Unless you're a fan of them, then you maybe will just know that anyway. But as a professional in the industry, the fact that a lot of people don't understand them does confuse me. Like the viewer in this opinion said, perhaps the amount of content could be off-putting to new viewers or new listeners. I know I myself, although I have been a fan of them since debut, I find it really hard to keep up with the content. But I do also feel luckily it's one of them things where you can pick up in any place you see fitting personally for you. So say you find a song in particular that you like by NCT Dream, then start there. And if you want to build around that, then great. I actually think the fact that the members interchange amongst the units does make it easier to try and get to know them a little bit better. But I do understand that it can be difficult and daunting when you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. Okay, now we have an opinion around the idea of perfect discographies, and this opinion says, barring a few exceptions, Red Velvet, Dreamcatcher, and pre-debut Luna have perfect discographies. Now I'm going to be honest, I haven't listened to the entire discographies of all of these groups. I'd be lying if I said I had. I'm not going to lie, I'm so bad at listening to full albums. That's why I started this series on my channel of giving Western albums to K-pop artists, because I'm trying to make myself better at listening to full albums, because I do often think about the amount of songs that I'm probably missing out on, even by K-pop artists that I like, because I haven't had time to listen to their full album. I do know that Red Velvet are famous for having some good B-sides, if I'm not mistaken, and I actually do like a few Dreamcatcher B-sides because one of my friends told me to check them out, and they were right, I loved them. In terms of Luna's discography, I'm thinking pre-debut. The only pre-debut songs I know are some of the Girl of the Month songs that they did, and some of those were interesting. So yeah, I definitely see why this opinion would come from. There is a lot to work with there. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of anybody I think has a perfect discography. If I'm thinking more nowadays, I do know that TXT have a lot of strong title tracks as well as B-sides. But I'd love to know in the comments who you guys think, in your opinion, have a perfect or near perfect discography. In my reacting to my subscribers' confessions video, I mentioned that somebody kindly sent me 12 confessions in one, but I thought around about 11 of them would have gone better in my opinions video, aka this one right now. So I'm going to address now their other 11 opinions they sent me. I will put them on screen in parts if you'd like to pause and read. So this person has started with number 1, K-pop is sexist. And then they've gone on to explain about how they're on strict diets and are expected to wear a lot of revealing clothing, and then are suddenly deemed as old as soon as they turn 30. This is something that unfortunately I'm gonna have to agree is true. I'm not saying that there aren't ridiculously high standards put on male idols, because there are, but as a society, things are always harder for women, and K-pop is no exception. A lot is expected from women, and the best part is they're expected to do it all before they turn 30, because then you're just too old to do anything, which of course I hope we all know is ridiculous. There are some amazing female idols out there who are above 30 and proving that they deserve their place in the industry just as much as anybody. But yeah, even more so, like this person says, with the diet expectations and then the revealing clothes that female idols are expected to wear. And it's worse because you can see how physically uncomfortable the girls are, and then they're still made to wear these outfits that are clearly uncomfortable to dance in, and then dance around in them. It is disgusting. I'm concerned that I don't think it's going to get any better ever, because this standard is here and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. It's a really good point that they've mentioned about male idols getting praised and respected when they get older, whereas female idols who debuted at the exact same time get overlooked and less respect. I do actually feel like the older they get, female groups are a lot more likely to get not necessarily forgotten about, but kind of thrown away and not played with anymore, if that makes sense. When it comes to females, they're always looking for the next shiny new toy, whereas with male idol groups, they're happy to keep the old one that just keeps getting older, you know? Next, they have said, number 2, K-pop songs are controlled and bold concepts are forbidden to keep everything simple. And then they have gone on to explain some groups who have ventured into darker concepts in the past. I have noticed this actually over my time as a K-pop stan. Not that things are getting softer, but things are getting more censored. I think that might be it. There are a lot of groups like VIX and Brown Eyed Girls who back in the day were risque, and VIX had dark concepts which were kind of not things that people were so familiar with, and Brown Eyed Girls did have a lot more sexual songs, you know, being grown women and all. And I do feel like nowadays you don't see as many of these dark concepts. Of course, it's not like they've disappeared entirely, but they are not at the same level and expectation as they used to be. I think this is just because whatever is famous in the time in K-pop is whatever's getting views. Like, there seems to have been eras that K-pop goes through, even though pop itself is the genre, it goes through genres within the genre, if that makes sense. And I think that's a classic case of what's happened here. I used to love the songs and risky MVs that the likes of BAP and VIX would do. Number 3 is people who say JYP, Big Hit, or any other company like that are the worst companies ever because they've mistreated their group. Please shut up. While there are true evils like TS, J-Tune, Camp, SM for Foreigners, etc, etc. And I definitely get what this person is saying. There are a lot of very, very, very bad K-pop companies out there who have put their idols in some very awful positions that they fundamentally don't deserve to be in as humans, never mind celebrities. They should not be expected to put up with any of the things that they have. Honestly, you could just Google any of these one companies and you could spend hours reading through all the things that they did. It's just completely unfair. I won't spend too much time in this video going into detail because honestly we'd be here for hours. There's a lot of small groups who come from companies you might not even heard of who are treating them like absolute trash, and it's just not okay. But again, this is another thing I don't expect to change anytime soon. At the end of the day, these companies, and the majority of the time, do just see their idols as money-making machines. We want to support our idols, but we don't want to support the positions their company are putting them in. It's very much like a rock and a hard place situation. Number 4, they have said, fans don't own idols. You can't decide whether they should date or not, or what they should do in their private life. Again, this is a definite good point that I think we really all need to reflect upon. People talk a lot about how when their idol starts dating, it's sort of like they're betraying their fans, and I just don't understand this concept at all. As a fan, we are not entitled to their love life or their personal life. If they want to go out clubbing with friends, if they want to stay home, it's none of our business. If they want to date, if they want to be single, then whatever makes them happy. As long as what they're doing is making them happy and is not endangering them or anybody else in any way, then I agree. I'm completely happy to stay out of idols' private lives because I'm here as a listener of their music. Yes, I do like to follow these people as idols, but that means I'm only entitled to what they offer me as an idol. I think there have been issues in the past of where the lines get crossed, where fans think they're entitled to more from their idols than just music. But yeah, the whole idea is just absolutely insanity to me. Number 5, they have said, people who hate idols because of things they've heard from social media are the stupidest kind of human beings ever. Just they need to see that as fans we have no knowledge of what's happening behind the cameras, we are not their friends, we know nothing, and we have no rights to claim who's innocent and who's guilty. While I wouldn't have chosen those specific words, I do get what this person means, and it's probably coming from a place of frustration. A lot of the time people are quick to just jump and believe whatever news source they see. I think we've all probably been guilty of it at one point. I very recently believed that Blackpink comeback poster that was coming around, and then all I had to do was look at the name of the person who posted it and see it wasn't YG official. But there can be more serious situations where people are quick to jump and believe whatever the first thing is they see. Of course, when it comes to things such as abuse and scandals, we are always more inclined to believe the victim first, and I agree I would do the same. But at the same time, I wouldn't immediately jump to attack whoever I think is in the wrong, because until we've had official statements and investigations, we simply don't know the truth in what's happened. And this is where we have to, as consumers, take a step back, know our place, and wait for the companies to come forward and explain what's happened. But it is a really important point, like this person said. We don't know what's happening behind the cameras, and a lot of the time people forget that we are only the consumer, kind of like the previous point really. We are not friends with these people in real life, and we may never even know the full truth sometimes on some occasions, but at the same time there are things where we don't need to know the full truth. I don't need to know my favorite idol's entire dating history because it's nothing to do with why I follow them, their music. Speaking of music, we have number 6. K-pop is only numbers now. Making quality music isn't important because of views and numbers of awards being what makes a group successful. This unfortunately is something that I think a lot of us will have seen over our time as K-pop stans. It's always about whenever a group releases a new song, how many views it got within the 24 hours. And unfortunately, this is always how the music industry has been, but I do think probably one of the worst places I've ever seen it in is during my time as a K-pop stan. And I don't think all the news sources help. You know, the likes of the All K-Pops and the Soompies, who were the first to write articles saying, oh, this group hit this record. Of course, it's great as a group to break records, but to be honest, it is just building up this toxicity where as soon as a group releases a new song, you just have to make sure it gets the most views the fastest, regardless of whether or not it's actually a song that you like. It's unfortunate because there are a lot of very, very good quality artists, musicians, and songs that get overlooked because of this sort of idealism that for a song to be successful, it needs to have the most awards. I do also personally think this is where the whole buying streams scandal came into play in K-pop. If you aren't familiar with it, I would give it a quick search. It's basically the idea of companies buying views for their idols, for their music videos, for their songs, etc., to push them higher up the charts. And it is a very real thing, and it does happen. And this is all because so much focus is put on the amount of success a song has in charts rather than critically by its fans. Number 7, this person says, people don't even care about their voices anymore. Everyone mostly cares about visuals. You can see this yourself when you check the comments of a new teaser release, etc. You know what? You do see this a lot. I like to watch a lot of stage mixes, as I've mentioned previously, and a lot of the comments are always about how beautiful this person looks, how attractive they are, rather than the strength of their performance and their voice and things like that. I think this is because the idea of being a K-pop idol is very different than the idea of being a singer in the West, for example. Whereas in the K-pop industry, you're expected to be the full package. You're expected to be very attractive. You're expected to be talented. But a lot of the time, they will focus on the attractive aspect first, which is very clear in the fact that some groups have just the position visual. It's a strange concept to get your head around if you're new to K-pop. The fact that you can have a position or a role in the group as just being the visual. So it's not exactly uncommon, but it is unfortunate that as consumers of music, the actual voices behind the music aren't put as much importance on. So please support your favorite vocalists, because there are some very, very talented vocalists out there who aren't getting the recognition that they deserve. Number 8, we have idols are forced to be porcelain dolls. They're not allowed to have opinions, they can't do what they want, and they can't make decisions for themselves, etc. This is not gonna lie, something that I've always wanted to say, but haven't really had a chance to yet. And it's the idea that idols have to be perfect. And I don't just mean visually, I mean in the things that they say. As humans, a lot of the time we make mistakes. We've all probably said something, even if you don't think it, that has offended somebody, upset somebody, or that you probably wouldn't say now because you don't agree with that anymore. But idols aren't allowed to do that. You are not allowed to do that even once by mistake. I think very recently, there was a member of NCT, Jungwon, who made a bit of an insensitive, perhaps, comment about the CSAT exams that were going on in Korea. Now, we need to remember that this boy is 17 years of age. He said something that offended some people, realized it was wrong, and he apologized straight away. That, in my opinion, I should be done with. He's learned from that. If he says something similar in future, then he's not learned his lesson. He's not sorry. But there are people out there now who are going to cancel him for this. And really, all he did was make a bit of a silly joke that probably wasn't in good taste. I'm sorry to bring this up if there are any NCT fans watching in the comments, but I think it is really important to address the idea of taking accountability, which he has done, and then forgiving people. There are some things that are obviously too big to be forgiven, but something as small as this, he made a bit of a joke on a V Live that he shouldn't have. He said sorry, we can all move on. It doesn't change anything about him as a person. He's still young and he's still learning. There's so many idols who have said things where they hold against that now for the rest of their lives, even though they've apologized time and time again. I completely understand the idea of people being upset when they're offended, but to the point where you're wishing death upon people is never okay. I like that as humans we can learn how to take accountability for our actions and move on and become better people, but some people are never going to get that chance or opportunity if people just refuse to forgive them whenever they make the slightest error. Number 9, we have cultural appropriation and cancel culture hides real problems. And then they go on to explain how people are very quick to attack an idol for things that aren't necessarily disrespectful as a way to be a bit of a hater and start scandals. Now, I personally am under the belief where because these things don't affect me and it's not my culture being appropriated, I'm in no position to say whether or not people should be offended by what they see. If people choose to be offended and say that they want an apology from the idol, then I understand. However, I do get the idea as well of things being blown up out of proportion to create a scandal as an excuse to hate somebody. Like, for example, I know one of my favorite groups, Mamamoo, have been involved in some cultural appropriation scandals in the past. They have apologized multiple times and are unfortunately still just seen as the group who did cultural appropriation. I think the point this person is trying to make that when people do these things, they're not necessarily trying to go out of the way to appropriate a culture or to offend people, but people like to be offended. K-pop itself is very heavily influenced by every culture. So you do sometimes see people picking and choosing when they want to be offended, which is when I think it becomes a problem. Cancel culture in itself is a whole nother ballgame. Again, like I said, I am not a member of any of the cultures that idols have been known to quote unquote appropriate in the past. I would never tell somebody where they should or shouldn't be offended, but I do agree that cancel culture is a greater problem, and I think there's a much bigger picture that is sometimes ignored. The last two confessions I received from this particular person are about BTS, and then I have some other BTS opinions I want to talk about as well. So let's make this next section the BTS section. This person says, BTS are a great group, but they keep changing their sound to fit current popular music. And then they go on to explain what they've done in the past. Oh, I'm going to get hate for this, especially having dearyoongi as my username, because I have been a very big fan for a very long time. But I'm going to be honest, I definitely see signs of this. And I do think it's heavily down to their success in the West. So when BTS debuted, it seemed like the company knew what kind of group they wanted to have. They wanted to have a strongly hip-hop focused, influenced group. And then they developed a sound that was unique to them while still holding on to their beginning influences. But nowadays, they are doing a lot more of the generic poppy style music. And I do think this is to keep on to their success that they're getting in the West nowadays. It's unfortunate because I am one of those oldies who loves their original music, but I do understand that they have to develop with what the audience wants. And if what the audience wants is their current sort of retro pop vibe, then that is what they'll get. I feel like a lot of groups who have mastered the music industry know that you have to move with it. So as unfortunate as it is to see BTS doing music now that doesn't really feel different or special to me anymore, I do also really enjoy seeing their success and them achieving so many amazing things, more than any group could imagine. And number 11, the last one from this confessor, says, toxic armies love playing the victim while bullying others. There's this thing that armies love to say, which is everybody hated BTS at the beginning and they were hated because they came from a small company. And then this person says at the end, their very own fandom now bullies other fandoms when BTS don't win an award or start fighting with other groups because BTS should be the only one who deserves all the wins. Now, unfortunately, you do see some of this. Of course, the bigger a group gets, the more fans they get, which means the amount of toxic fans will also increase. And I think when people are so passionate about a group, they just want to see them win everything, and they don't understand why they don't. So I'm not sure if I think that armies bully other fandoms more exactly than other fandoms bully. I think it might just be that there's more armies, so we see more of it, and they're nominated for more awards, so we see more action when they are, if that makes sense. I also feel like a lot of the time, if other groups are nominated for awards at the same time as BTS, then they probably won't necessarily bother arguing because they know that BTS are probably going to win. While we're talking about award show wins, the next opinion I have from somebody else this time says BTS don't deserve some of the awards they win. Other artists in those categories sometimes deserve them more. BTS are amazing, but so are other groups. I think that last sentence is really important here. I don't think that the point is that BTS don't deserve the awards. I think the point is more that sometimes other groups deserve them just as much. I did a video, I can't even remember if it's still up on my channel anymore, last year for the Mamas, of who I predicted would win the awards versus who I wanted to win the awards. And every time if BTS was nominated, I said, yep, they'll win it. But personally, I would like this group to win this or that group to win that. And I would love to see more variety in award shows, especially the Korean ones. When it comes to things like the Mamas, and there are so many other groups nominated, it is a shame to see that they won't even get a chance to get looked at. I don't think this has been an instant process. Over the years, slowly BTS have started winning more and more of the things they've been nominated for. There has been years where there's been groups such as TWICE and Big Bang who have been nominated for things who have won because they're successful in their own right. I think last year when I did my Mama's video, there was something that they were nominated for that I would have given to 17 without a doubt, and it probably was a dance performance one, because I think currently they're one of those groups who are just so up there that they should be winning awards for it. But of course, that doesn't mean that BTS aren't amazing. They deserve all the success they've gotten because they've worked really hard for it. But at the same time, that doesn't diminish any of the effort that has been put in by similar groups who are trying really, really hard and unfortunately not getting the recognition they deserve. This next BTS opinion says, I see so many armies talking about how Dionysus, sorry if I butchered that, and Spring Day are good songs, but those are some of my least favourite BTS songs. Oh no, I'm sad about this one. I personally really love Dionysus and Spring Day. Spring Day isn't actually normally my style of music, as some of you may know if you've watched my previous videos. I am really an upbeat music kind of girl. Something like Dionysus is right up my street, but for some reason, Spring Day is just so beautiful to me that it really drew me in and it wouldn't let me go. I really like Dionysus and Spring Day for very different reasons. They're both different aspects of my music personality, but I completely understand if you don't like them personally, that's just your opinion. Music is subjective, so if there's songs that you don't like, somebody else will love them and vice versa. And the last BTS opinion we have to look at is a bit more of a lighter one. This one says, this is more of an opinion, but I think red and blue hair doesn't suit Taehyung that well. I prefer natural colours on him. I completely agree with this one. I have seen his red hair and blue hair and I thought they were okay, but there are some people who I think suit natural colours more and he's one of them. I think brown hair looks really great on him. There are some idols that you can throw any hair colour on and they just make it work, and I'm very jealous of those people. I'd argue that the red was okay, but I don't think I was a big fan of the blue personally. The next opinion we're going to look at says, there's literally no such thing as an ugly idol at all, and I'm not sugarcoating my words at all. There's literally none of them. All of them are attractive. Just because they don't fit the standards of beauty doesn't mean they aren't attractive. They're all above average looking. If you take any ugly idol from K-pop and compare them to an average person, they will always be more attractive because they were never ugly, just overshadowed. And I do agree, I've never seen a K-pop idol who isn't above average attractive. Even if it's not somebody that I'm personally attracted to, they're definitely always above the average everyday standards of beauty. Like, you never see an idol who just looks like somebody you'd walk past on the street. Oh no, they're always someone who you just know looks like they should be a celebrity. They just have it, don't they? Like, they don't look like us normal people, and you can tell. There's always that like saying that somebody has star quality. Idols are just born with that aura where you can tell they're meant to be an idol because they have that sort of image. I think a lot of the time people like to say an idol is ugly just because they personally don't find them attractive, whereas there's different standards of beauty all around the world. The next opinion is about the rookie boy group Kingdom. If you haven't heard of them, you should check them out. This one says, the group Kingdom has one of the most original concepts I've seen in K-pop in years, and I hope more people start standing them soon. I completely agree with this one. I personally don't stand them that much yet, but I am familiar with their music, and I would agree that their concept is this really unique, pardon me for stating the obvious, but Kingdom idea where they've got the whole royal theme going, and it's so polished for a rookie group that you would never guess it's by a rookie group, and it's really great. And it's one of them things where you just know for a fact if a bigger label had done it, then it would have immediately caught on and people would have been dying over it. It's a shame really, because their concept is really interesting, and I think a lot of people who haven't seen it probably would like it. You can tell that they know exactly what they're doing, their company knows exactly the direction they want to take them on, and I hope they do stick with it even if they don't find immediate success. I've got a feeling that the longer it goes on, hopefully more people will start to appreciate them. And the last opinion we're going to look at in today's video is about Hyuning Bae. I know I've said that name wrong, I'm so sorry, but I'll read it anyway. Hyuning Bae is a lovely and talented girl, and it's nice that she's in the group Kepler, and this is no disrespect to her, but other girls deserved it more, like Shana or Bora, who were objectively better at singing, and it's kind of annoying that there's a lot of Moas who voted for her when they didn't watch the show or any of the other girls. When I voted for my faves every single day without fail after seeing all the girls and made my decision based off their performances. Completely get what you mean. I didn't actually watch the show, but I have seen some of the performances, and I know there were some very talented girls, and I also remember there being a lot of outcry that some of these really talented girls unfortunately didn't make it into the final lineup. Like this person says, it's nothing against Hyuning Bae as a person. She seems lovely from what I've seen as well, and she is talented, but there are some girls out there who really shone, and they unfortunately didn't make it. And I think there was a lot of a scandal where there was a lot of Moas mass voting for her, like they were buying like phones to vote from. And I do feel bad for people like this person who posted this opinion, who watched every episode, made their decision based on the girls they saw, and decided who they wanted to vote for, rather than just, oh well, I know this person is related to a famous person and I'd like to see them do well. I understand wanting to support her completely, but I do think it should have been more about her talent rather than her background. I do feel really bad for her because I know she must be seeing a lot of hate comments, and it's not fair. While I understand thinking the other girls deserved it more, it's not right to send people hate comments just because you're upset that your favourite didn't get into a group. But like this person said, it can just be frustrating. Unfortunately, there definitely was a bit of an unfair advantage here. I know people who are a fan of her would like to argue otherwise, but it's unfortunately true. She did have a little bit of an advantage before she started. Just like, I'm not gonna lie, so did Yoojin from CLC because she's Yoojin from CLC. I absolutely adore Yoojin and CLC. I think she's very talented and I loved the group, but I can't pretend that she didn't get as far as she did with the help from the fact that she's got a bit of a background in the industry, you know what I mean? Of course, it doesn't take away from her success and abilities, neither does it for Hyuning Bae, but it is important to note that there were other external factors involved, as there usually always is with these sorts of survival programs. But yeah, I do wish Hyuning Bae and all of the girls in Kepler really great successes because they worked hard to be there, and I hope that it does get easier for Bae because I know she must be struggling, seeing a lot of hate comments when all she wants to do is live her dream as much as anybody else. Okay guys, and that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching if you got this far, and thank you so much to everybody who sent me either a confession or an opinion. I think I've been through them all now, but if I missed yours, please let me know and I am so sorry. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments down below if you'd like to see this style of video in future again where I involve you guys. It's been really fun for me hearing what you guys think and what you have to say. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. That will let you be the first to hear whenever I upload a video. We're at 4K now, which is so exciting. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It means the world to me. And as always, my Twitter username will be on screen. It's just dearyoongi, the same as my name here. If you'd like to go follow that, let's be friends. I always follow back fellow K-pop stans, and I shall see you next time. Bye guys.